Hello everybody, it's Mr. Menziah here and welcome to my video on a critique of Warframe's arbitrations. So the first part of this video is going to be my critique, and then the second part of this video is going to be the solutions and ideas to improve the game mode. So first, let's get into what arbitrations is. So arbitrations is a game mode that you unlock by completing every mission in the star chart, and then you will be able to see the arbitrations. Arbitrations also rotate once every hour, so most of the time the missions will change, and same with the enemy faction. Then there is the Vitus Essence shop. Now that you play arbitrations, you will get Vitus Essence depending on how long you go, or you have a small percentage of Vitus Essence dropping from the arbitration drones that are in the game mode. So let's get on to the negatives first. My issue when it comes down to arbitrations is the rotation. The rotation is completely RNG from what I've noticed, and sometimes more arbitration types spawn than others, such as the infested survival. In my opinion, I do not like doing infested survival at all. I think it's the most boring and it's the easiest one to do. And some people might say, well, it's easy, well, why are you complaining? I go into arbitrations for Vitus Essence and difficulty as well. And with the infested survival, there's no difficulty there really, and you don't really feel a good spike in difficulty until a good 45 minutes in, and most people when I go in there don't go in for an hour. And the problem is with it, it's the spawn rate is a bit slow, and the damage that the enemies deal to you is quite low depending on which Warframe you play as, obviously. And I go in there, to put my best stuff on and to just go in for a long endurance run and collect rewards. But for me, I feel the rotation definitely needs a lot of improving, and possibly getting the choice to choose which arbitration you want to do. But I'll get to that later in the video. Then there is the very weird health pool when it comes down to certain defenses. Sometimes there's a defense where a guy, or the guy that's typically there, can sponge a lot of DPS, and then there's some where he can't take a lot of DPS, especially in the void. With the void arbitrations that are defense based, the guy cannot take a lot of damage at all. He is very easily to be killed in the void for some reason. But if we go to Stoffler, which is the defense on Lua, they changed it from the guy to the machine, and the machine can take a lot of damage. So I think there's a bit of an imbalance when it comes down to the defenses, because I do feel the defenses are very inconsistent with the health pool, and there's some occasions where you can't do defenses for long periods because the guy loses more health than you can kill enemies in certain missions, and it really does shorten the amount of time you can be in there. Then there is the, how would I say this? There is the issue when it comes down to a massive wipe in the defense in the void as well. There have been occasions where I've noticed where people just randomly die from something in the void defenses in general, and I'm not sure why that happens. It's not very common, but I've had it a few times where when the lasers weren't activated, just to let you know. But if you stand in the middle of where the lasers will be, sometimes you just get a fuck ton of DPS done to you, and nobody really understands what happened. It just tends to happen every once in a while. That's a bit of an issue that needs to be looked at, DE. So now let's talk about the positives. So DE have implemented some changes for arbitrations, I think about 6 or 5 months ago, where they added in the Vitus Essence are droppable in the game mode itself. I think this is a very good choice, a very good decision for the game mode. Then they also added in a new statue. They also added in Kuva as well to the Vitus Essence store. That's where I spend most of my Vitus Essence. At this point, it's just for Kuva. Some people could say that, oh, then what's the point of doing Kuva survival? I think it adds more variety of getting Kuva from different places. Because I can't lie, I've spent a good couple of 100 hours in Kuva survival. I've kind of just gotten bored of doing Kuva survival. So now doing arbitrations, I can get Kuva from like different game modes now. And I think that was a very good choice. Then there is the new mods that they've added in and arcanes. I think adding in arcanes into arbitrations was a very good idea. Very good in my opinion. I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg when it came down to arcanes, and I think DE are probably going to add in more in the future anyway. But I've also got some solutions for that later in the video, and I really do like that they've added arcanes in there. Then they also added in new mods such as like new auras to diversify your builds, and I think this was also very good as well. I think some mods are better than others, like adaptation is the only mod you can't get from the Vitus Essence store for obvious reasons, but because obviously it's the best, in my opinion. I think adaptation is the best mod in arbitrations, period. And I think not adding it to the Vitus Essence store was a pretty good idea, because once people got adaptation, they just straight up left and don't play arbitrations anymore. I know a lot of people in my clan have said this as well. They just did it for adaptation, then they didn't bother playing it, because a lot of the rewards in there are just not very useful to them. But don't worry, I've got solutions for that too. I also like the difficulty in some of them, not all of them. Some of them are very good, just like it's just enough difficulty where I can feel the tension there, and some of them not so much, such as like Mott survival. Mott's always been the most difficult survival in general, but adding in the drones for arbitrations, and obviously you've got the arbitration difficulty, which is about 60 to 80 at the beginning. Then it goes up and it scales infinitely for now. At the moment, we do not have the latest armor and shield gating changes for console. Just to make that clear, this video is before that update for the consoles. But yeah, so far I would say the difficulty is relatively there, but obviously does need a bit more of improving. And on to the last part, I would say, is dying in arbitrations. So originally, when arbitrations came out, if you died, you're over. It's done. You could watch or you could leave, but they've also added in the feature of after you die, you become one of the life support systems, and you have to hunt down arbitration drones that drop the crystals for you to revive your teammate. I think this was a very good addition to the game mode, because I know there are some casuals who who don't have the right builds, and they just died, then they pretty much complained. I do think being able to revive your teammates was also very good, and you know, I think it keeps people playing, because when arbitrations first came out, a lot of people saw if you died, you can't be revived, and they didn't touch it at all. Like, the arbitrations game mode was a ghost town before that change happened. So I'm glad to see that DE changed that. that feature, and I really do like being able to revive my teammates. So that's my critique done. Let's get into the other part of the video. So let's talk about the rewards first and how this can be improved. So it's very obvious that a lot of people have been talking about the rewards for arbitrations. Some people don't like the rewards at all, and some people do. In my opinion, I prefer to hunt for Vitus Essence than anything else, because I don't need statues or endo or any of the arcanes at this point, because I've got a million endo, I've got a ton of statues, and I've got pretty good mods that allow some of my Warframes to go for long endurance runs. So what could I improve, or what could be improved for this game mode? So when it comes down to the rewards, Warframe has implemented arcanes into this game mode, and I think this is a very good way of implementing them. So far we have 2 or 3 arcanes. I think one is called Arcane Tanker, which allows you to get armor when you proc your arc gun out in the open, and there's one that allows you to deal extra damage for your primary, and there's one that allows you to do extra damage to your melee weapon. What I would suggest when it comes down to arcades is diversing it a little bit more, because to me I think this is a good step in the right direction of adding them in, but I also do think you could add some new ones, or possibly other ones that you can get from other game modes. I know we are getting Scarlet Spear soon, which is going to be a way to get certain arcanes such as like Grace or Guardian or Energize, and it's not currently implemented into the game, so I will not be talking about that here. But I do think we should add some possibly new arcanes to the roster, and hopefully some of them are pretty good for the game mode and outside of it too. Then another idea I would suggest is adding in exclusive weapons to the game mode. Adding in new weapons would give the community something to chase in the game mode of arbitrations. I think this would be a pretty cool idea. You know, add some exclusive weapons that look very Arbiters of Hexis-esque. I'm not sure how I would pronounce that, but yeah, you get the point. It would add something good to the game mode, and people would have something to grind for. And typically weapons are in pieces when you are trying to hunt for them. You could do the same thing in arbitrations. You have a certain percentage of chance of getting a certain piece for one of the weapons. And here is something a bit ballsy. Adding in Umbral Former to the roster. No, you should not be able to get this with Vitus Essence, because I think this will just ruin the point of doing Nightwave. A very small percentage of a chance of getting Umbral Former would be pretty cool, and people would definitely go in there just to get themselves one. And I'm not saying this is going to be easy to get, because let's be realistic. Umbral Former is very rare in the game. It drops from Nightwave obviously, and you also have a small chance of getting it in Railjack. I think adding this in to arbitrations would be a nice addition as well, especially how DE were promoting this game mode to be endgame. That is a pretty endgame reward in my opinion, and I think that would add some pretty cool variety to the rewards as well, and something very prestigious to grind for. Now let's talk about the rotation and being able to choose which arbitration you want to do. So, people have obviously stated that people would like to choose which arbitration they would like to play. And when it comes down to the rotation of arbitrations, certain missions and certain enemy factions spawn way more than others. There is a bit of a balancing issue when it comes down to the rotation, such as Infested Survival procs more often than most arbitrations in the game, and unfortunately you can only do one at a time. My suggestion is adding the same type of feature you have with relic missions, where you have a layout of multiple Fisher missions, but why not do the same with arbitrations? Because some people just don't like to do certain arbitrations. You've got your excavations, you've got disruptions, or you've got your survivals or defense. Why not do the same thing with arbitrations? It adds more variety and choice when it comes down to choosing which one you want to do, and people can see which arbitrations are available at the time, so they can choose their favorite one if it's up. So this would be a very good addition to the game in my opinion. So that's my critique and solutions for the game mode of arbitrations. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you tell me what you guys think and share this with DE. Here at the moment they are willing to hear suggestions for the game at the moment. So please share it and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.